So my name is Josh. We have been introduced, so it will be boring to start talking about myself again. So I'll talk about the basic study on the socioeconomic challenges of marine resources. Next, please. So I'm going to talk mostly about marine resources like seaweed or algae beds, seagrass beds, mangroves, corals. So when we talk of marine resources that we can actually exploit and use in our daily lives, these are some of them. We have like the seaweed or algae beds, we have seagrass beds, mangroves, corals, fish, etc., etc. So of course we have things like oil and gas and others, but we'll talk about the biological ones because they are the ones that I know. Next. Okay, so and I will focus mostly on aquaculture, the resources that we can exploit or we exploit from the marine resources and farming them for livelihood development. So we have mostly what I'll talk about is seaweed, and I'll talk about the farming and value addition. But we also have people who are doing fish farming, like milkfish. So they have ponds that are placed behind mangroves, and they have ponds there, and they feed milkfish especially, and some of them also for marine tilapia, which has been converted and so on. And also we have shellfish. Mostly shellfish is collected from the intertidal area. So people collect the cockles, for example, and they take home for food. There was a little bit of shellfish farming to produce pearls, but it didn't continue. But shellfish is one of the resources that we can use in our marine environment. Also have people who are doing crab fattening. So they have mud crabs. They keep them in these chambers, and then they fatten them for a while, and then they get the product for their livelihood. We also have people who have sea cucumber farms. They are farming sea cucumbers for the livelihood, mostly for selling, because we don't eat sea cucumbers yet in Tanzania. Maybe one day we will do so. Maybe there are some who have already started to eat, I don't know. So we have also some people who are working on sponges, for example, in Zanzibar and so on. So these are all resources that can be exploited and used for farming for the livelihood. Next. So I'm going to talk mostly on seaweed, and I will associate it with some of the other marine resources, seaweed farming and value addition. Next. Okay, so we are talking about the seaweed industry, because it is a big industry in our country. Seaweed employs more than 30,000 farmers countrywide, and more than 80% of them are women. Production up to last year actually is around more than 30,000, because everyone now is keen on increasing the production. And it is an industry that has been shown to be really a good livelihood activity for the coastal community. But then we have this very beautiful industry, but what are the challenges that our communities are facing when they use this resource for their daily needs? Next. So the seaweed farming for the coastal people is simple. So the farmers are in the village, they farm the seaweed and they sell within the villages, because the developers or exporters have buying stations in the villages. So the farmers sell in the village, and then you have companies. These are can be purely local companies based here, or some of these companies have sister companies abroad where they can sell. They sell to multinational companies. I have some of them here. This is not exhaustive. We have more, but I will just give an example. So everything is done, for the case of the farmers, everything is done in the villages. Next one. So I want you to note these two species. So we have two types, you can say, of seaweed that we are the farming. We have Spinosa and Cotonou. So I want you to note that Cotonou, the price of Cotonou is twice that of Spinosa. So that when we talk of the challenges, then you will take about these two species. So Spinosa says that in 5 cents of a dollar, of a US dollar per kilo, Cotonou says that at 50 cents. Next. So what are the challenges of this seaweed farming? The main challenge we are seeing now is climate change. Climate change causes increase in seawater temperatures. Now we have temperatures going all the way to 38 degrees centigrade. For the seaweeds that we are farming, that temperature is quite high. So it is a challenge. It brings diseases and pests. We have the ICS disease. You can see that white is there, that's why we call it ice, and then it ice. So these are challenges that are faced by our coastal communities when they are using this seaweed resource for aquaculture for their livelihoods development. Next. So these diseases and pests, what are the results of this kind of a challenge to the resource that our people are using? So we see that the production now is picking up because of the efforts, but there was a time when production was really going down. That graph is not up to date, but just to show that production really did decrease for a while. So diseases and pests are some of the is one of the main challenges that cause decline in seed production. And then we talked of the higher value seed Cotonou. So with that kind of diseases, Cotonou is very susceptible. It is very sensitive to the environment. So it is no longer growing in many of these areas where we live from. So what happens is that our farmers are forced to farm the lower value seed, which means they are getting less income than what they would have gotten if they were able to farm the Cotonou. So this is quite a challenge for the people to farm the lower value seed. Next. Okay, now still in the increase in the seawater temperatures, what happens is during the hot season, nowadays even the Spinosa, which we say is more hardy, is more tolerant, is also affected. So you can see what it causes to our coastal people for their livelihood. So this one is a farmer standing on her farm. You can see that this is the hot season, okay? And then the seaweed is, it's almost disappearing. There are only very few branches that are there. So she's waiting for the season to pass so that she can restart the farming, okay? And the hot season, takes about 3 months between December and March. So it is for 3 months, these people are not able to use this resource for their livelihood development. So the income goes down. Okay, so although this is a challenge, then imagine that after the hot season, then this farmer will start to perpetuate the seed. She will start slowly seed, and then she will try to expand the farms. By the time she has enough seed, say now I can go into really having a big farming area. Probably she only has only a few months to farm before the hot season is back. So next slide. So the big challenge that we have with this kind of marine resource is the seed supply. Our farmers do not have seed. We do not have centers like seed nurseries where our farmers can get the seed. We don't have things like tissue culture laboratories where our farmers can get the seed. So seed supply is a big issue, it's a big challenge to our farmers when they want to use the seed resource for their livelihood. I know there's some efforts now to different stakeholders are trying now have these nursery farms, and even here in Zanzibar, they are constructing a tissue culture laboratory. But those are recent efforts, but we have a big challenge of the sea. Right. Okay, now we are talking about this increase in seawater temperature, which is a big challenge now, even in the farming technology. Now, most of our people use this shallow water, the traditional off-bottom method, where it is the 2 pegs and a line for a rope, and it is done in shallow water areas. So with time, because the temperature is increasing, this method is becoming suboptimal. When the seaweed is found here, it dies off, especially during the hot season, and this is the same thing we are saying that cotton has failed in many places because of the temperature. Next. So to help the farmers, the number of stakeholders are working on technology development so that the farms, especially during the hot season or even during all the time, farmers can go into deeper water areas to farm the seaweed. In the deeper water areas, the conditions are more stable, temperatures are lower. You don't have like a lot of salinity fluctuation because of rainfall and so on. So we are talking about deep water, 2 to 6 meters, so that the farmers can increase production and probably find the higher value seaweed cotton. So this is one of the efforts to help our people to utilize this resource for to have more outcome. But what are the challenges? Next slide. So we say that more than 80% of the farmers are women. Okay, then if they are women, most coastal women are not swimming. Boys go to swim when they are very young, but not girls. So most of our coastal people cannot swim. So we have 80% of the farmers are women, but they cannot swim. So when they have to go to the deep water areas, then they need to know how to swim. Otherwise, it is difficult for them. Okay, so this is a challenge now. How do we make our farmers, most of them are women, to work in the deep water areas? And also, they need to go to transport themselves from the shore to the deep water areas. So they need boats, especially fiber boats, because they are good ones to maneuver. When there is wind or something, they need to maneuver. And then fiber boats are better than like wooden boats. So the women do not own boats. Boats are owned by fishermen, they are owned by men. So they don't have boats. So it is another challenge. How will the women reach the deep water areas? So as to use this resource for their daily needs. So this is a challenge. Next slide. And then we have another challenge. Farmers are working there using the resource that is seaweed for their livelihood, to get their livelihood. And then, of course, the fouling, like the one on the right photo, is seasonal. That is Ulva, the green Ulva fouling, the seaweed farming area. So farmers have to wait, because it is impossible to try and remove all this fouling. So they wait for a month or so for the fouling seaweed or algae to go away, and then they continue with their farming. The photo on the left here, this is a different story. That one, the green this is from Sokoso, southern Tanzania. This one on the left here is from Zanzibar, that is Bweleo village. In Bweleo, they have this challenge of the farming seaweed, which is called gracillarium. It just comes there and covers the farms, and the farmers cannot harvest. And back to the state for 6 years or more without harvesting because of this gracillarium. It was 2012, I think they stayed until 2021 or something. They couldn't farm. Now it is less, they are going into farming. But imagine, this resource is there, but they couldn't do it for all those years because of this farming seaweed. Next one. And another challenge, the farmers have planted the seaweed, and they are going to dry this seaweed so that they can sell. And the drying here is sun drying. So they depend on the sun to dry their seaweed. Now imagine if it is the rainy season, how will they dry the seaweed? And one thing about seaweed is, if it gets rainwater or fresh water, it will be bleached, it will become white as you see here. So a farmer puts the seaweed to dry, but then there's a challenge with rainwater. So if the rain is much, the seaweed becomes slimy and it cannot dry. And if it cannot dry, they cannot sell. So during the rainy season, our farmers have a challenge of using this resource for their livelihood because they cannot dry the seaweed. Next. Okay, so we said, okay, as a country, let us add value to the lower value seaweed. The higher value seaweed, cotonou, farmers can try to farm, but let's add value to the lower value seaweed. So we started to produce seaweed products under the Zanzibar Seaweed Cluster Initiative. That was 2006. We started with one group in Kidoti with 21 members. Now, let's say last year, 2024, we have more than 60 groups that are producing food and cosmetic products. And we have more than 700 processors now that are making this seaweed product. So we have food products like juice, like masala. We have cosmetic products like shampoo, the seaweed gel. You have the seaweed powder, which can be used for food or cosmetics. Next slide. So what we see here is this light green horizontal value chain. That was our value chain before we started to add value to the seaweed. So farmer would farm seaweed, has wet seaweed, dries it, and sells to exporters who export. That was the end of the value chain. In the seaweed, we are talking about the lower value one. So you get 25 or 30 cents of the dollar per kilo. Then we started to add value. So now our coastal people have a lot of products and they have higher products. The seaweed powder, for example, it sells up to $20 a kilo. So it's a lot of money that they are using. And these are the products they are selling at a higher price. But what is the challenge with all this value addition? Next slide. We are talking about, of course, there are a lot of challenges others, but we're talking about packaging materials. So with packaging materials, they are limited because they have only some specific shops or few shops that are selling packaging materials. Sometimes the farmers will go, the processor will go to these shops looking for packaging materials. They won't get it. They'll be told to wait for a week or 2 weeks. All this time, it means that they cannot use their resource for livelihood. So it is a challenge with that one. And also, some of the packaging materials are quite expensive, which means the profit that the processors are getting is low. But we also have very limited markets. Our processors depend on tourists who are passing through the area to buy their products. Some of them work with tourist hotels. Some of them depend more on exhibitions. They go to Sabasaba, Nane, Mapinduzi exhibition in Zanzibar. So the market is still limited. So we have to work on that because we have the whole of Africa. Why don't we make that our market for our seaweed resource products made out of that? Okay. Next slide. So we are talking about these two types of seaweeds, cotonou and spinosa. But we still have a lot of seaweed resources growing in our waters, So those would be domesticated and brought to as a resource use. But then research is limited on the types, on the species that can be used. But we do have some experiments on the green ulva, experiment on the gracilaria. Sargassum, the cultivation method is still not known worldwide. So we have, so the research is limited on what seaweed species we can use as to complement what we have, especially during this time of big impact of climate change. So this is another challenge. Next. There is conflict between resource users. If you look at these photos, maybe I don't even have to say much. You see, so these are places where there is both tourism and seaweed farming, or heavy fishing with seaweed farming. So these two photos on the right, this is Bali, okay? And this on the left, this is Chokot and Pemba. So what we see here is that there are there is kite surfing. This is a tourist sport, right? So imagine a farmer sitting, working on her farm, and then she has a loud noise behind. Boom! What is that? Is a kite that has landed there. So it is a challenge. And then all along the coast, the shoreline, that's where the farmers used to dry their seaweed. But now all these areas have been taken by tourism. They have to carry their seaweed to their homes to dry it, otherwise they don't have a place to dry seaweed. And then they used to passages to go to the farms. They used to come from home, go straight to the farms. But nowadays there are walls everywhere, so they have to go to a certain area where there is a passage to go to their farms. And then there are also reports that some of these tourist activities, they actually pour dead water straight to the sea. So when this water is poured to the seaweed does not like pollution. So the seaweed just dies and the farmers cannot continue. And then there is the cutting also of ropes. When a kite, for example, lands and then it is stuck, they just cut the rope and go away. They don't think that this is a loss to the farmers. And also fishermen, if their boats are stuck, fishermen not in many places are bad, but if their boats are stuck, they'll just cut the seaweed rope and go away. So the farmers lose that one. Next one. Next slide. Okay, now we are talking about the off-bottom method using peg and line. So in the areas where there are mangroves, that was the source of the pegs. And then there's a ban on using cutting mangroves for seaweed pegs in Zanzibar on mainland Tanzania. So farmers have to send people to cut pegs in their village forests, of course, with farmers. So that sometimes they wait for the people to bring the pegs for 2-3 days. So, you know, the time of planting can be affected. So what about maybe something like tree nurseries would help the farmers to have a source of pegs instead of depending on the forests. Next one. Okay, now we are talking about the sea cucumber farming. Okay, sea cucumber farming, there are people who have commercial farms of sea cucumber. But the biggest problem, of course, there is a problem with seed or fingerlings and so on. But the biggest problem with using sea cucumbers as a resource for livelihood development is theft. Imagine you have your farm and you want to harvest and someone comes and harvests. For example, we were in Kubu in November. They told us that they kept their sea cucumbers for more than a year. So the day that they said we are going to harvest tomorrow, someone came at night and harvested it. So theft is a big challenge for when our farmers want to use this resource. And last one. Okay. Here we are talking. We are promoting actually to use to integrate seaweed and other and marine organisms like sea cucumbers, like milkfish, and even crab fattening. Okay, this can happen. So if we want to our people to use the resource of seaweed and sea cucumbers, so we still have the challenge of theft of the sea cucumber. But they can also integrate with the milkfish. So in the same area, they can have seaweed and milkfish. So they get two products in the same area. I think that is the end. Those are the challenges that when our people want to use the marine resources for their livelihood development every day. Those are the challenges that are faced. Thank you for your attention.
Okay.
So I'll give a chance to take two hot questions so that, because we are going to have a session whereby we are going to allow more questions. I know some people will need to even do some interviews. I hope you are here with us the whole day. Okay, yeah. So Dr. Musuya is here with us the whole day. You have a chance to pull her aside and do an interview if you so want. But I'm going to give a chance for two quick questions before we go to the next speaker.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Pauline from Kenya. You've spoken about farmers sometimes being forced to go at the deep sea to the farming. What are the environmental implications of that? Are we seeing a scenario where maybe in a few years we are going to have a problem of maybe pollution due to that? And if so, what are you doing to ensure that doesn't happen?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Yeah, that's a bit tricky, but what we are saying is when we go to in our case, what we have seen, when we go to deep water areas, actually it is advantageous to the environment. Because in the deep water areas, the farmers will not use the pegs, for example. They will use like rafts, where you have only very few woods. So it means that the cutting of the trees, the forests are already conserved, because not many not pegs would be needed to do the farming. And another advantage with the environment is that whereas in the shallow water areas, farmers go to the farms every day, come back, walk around. There's stamp on there is a lot of stamping on the underlying marine organisms, also the algae and so on. So by working in the deep water areas, it means there's less disturbance because they're not in direct contact with the sea. So and when we talk of pollution, as we say, for seaweed, of course, we do not add anything, not nutrients or whatever. But in the shallow, I would say in the shallow water method, there's a higher chance of pollution because of when the pegs are rotten, they just remove them and leave them in the ocean. When the ropes are broken, for example, they are torn, so they may leave the pieces of ropes, they may be taken away by waves and so on. So with the deep water farming, we will not have much of these leftovers or pieces of ropes or plastics that will be going around. And also, there's another advantage. I'm not sure if it is positive or negative. As you were saying, when you put these deep water devices, you are making a microenvironment. So a lot of fish. That's why some fishermen come and put nets and they just pull without thinking that there's a farm here. So we are creating a microenvironment. You see a lot of fish of all sizes coming under this area. It's like a fish aggregating device. So in long term, I don't know, just to be up to research. How will this affect the neighboring natural environment? That's what I want to say.
Okay, yeah, give it to our question. Close to you.
My name is Miriam. I'm also from Kenya. I would like to know, have women here experienced any health challenges because of staying in water for some time? Women, have they experienced any health challenges because of being in the water for long?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, we have a lot of complaints from the farmers. They say when they sit, they sit in the water. Remember the farm there, they sit there harvesting and planting for up to 6 hours. So the ladies say, oh, we are not as beautiful as we used to be. Our skin is now like old people, you know, all kinds of things. But what happens is that there is a lot of reflection, you know, from the sun. So the eyes can be affected. Some of them, after a while, would start putting on glasses and so on. And also a lot of salt, because of a lot of salt on their skin. When they go home, they have to shower very fast to remove the salt from their bodies and so on. So yeah, and also to carry their materials there and then carry the seaweed back. So there are a lot of, they get backaches and so on. So eyes can be affected, the skin can be affected. They have backaches because of carrying the farming materials and the harvested seaweed from the farms to the drying areas.
Yeah, that's the one.
Thank you, Madam. I have two questions, but the first question about your presentation. Some of challenges faced with the women, but since during the opening session, Farmers Secretary said that they introduced more than 1,000 boats to the farmers and the fishing. So I want to know your research. When you done your research in this 2 years or after 2 years, before 2 years? The second question is about lack of seed supply. For example, in Tanzania, mainland is introducing BBT, better tomorrow, big better tomorrow. So we see some of farmers and even you can say people introducing new technology about agriculture, maybe in horticulture, introducing to the new about the agriculture issues. So what your research said about the introducing new technology to this applied fields?
Okay, thank you for the questions. The first question about fishing boats. Okay. Yes, as I said, there are a number of stakeholders, including the government, who are coming in to help the farmers. Apart from the government, you can find maybe NGOs also have provided fiber boats to some farmers in the area. But you know, if you are giving a fiber boat, like one in one village, for example, and we have 8,000, 10,000, no, 10,000, 1,000 farmers, 2,000 farmers in one village. How will the boat will help, but not much. So this, as I said, these are efforts that are coming up, you know, to help the farmers. So with time, I'm sure that there will be enough. But for now, we still need more of these boats for the farmers. And the second one was on, just mention what you said. The seed supply, and the seed supply, yeah. Okay, so we have, as I said, it is still a big challenge, but there are some stakeholders who are coming in to look at ways of doing that. So that BBT can also be extended to the sea, you know, to the sea farmers. Because if you have a group of few youths, for example, or few farmers who can actually do that, and you know, we have some farmers who keep the seed, but how much? They put a few lines somewhere in the water to wait, but it is still a challenge because they cannot go further out to put them. So I think a program like that would help, because then they would be trained to have nursery farms in the deep water areas with the kind of devices that are required. That will be also another help of the seed supply.
Okay, let's appreciate Dr. Mzee again. We are going to, we have another question. We're going to give some time for that after the second presentation. So thank you so very much for your time. We are going to have our next speaker who is here with us as well. And his name is Makame Chumu Shali. He's a Fisheries Coordination Officer in the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries in Zanzibar with a master's degree from the University of Dar es Salaam, bachelor's degree of Science and Aquaculture from Sokoine University of Agriculture, and Sustainable Fisheries Management in the Coastal Marine Resources Management in Blue Economy. And he works on policies and initiatives to enhance marine resources, conservation and economic development in Zanzibar Blue Economy sector. So, Bwana Makame, karibu sana. Let's appreciate him as we come forward.
Hello, everyone.
So,
As my brother mentioned me before, my name is Makame Chumu, and I'm Fisheries Coordination Officer from Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries in Zanzibar. And I'm here, I want to present to you the sustainable fisheries in Zanzibar. And strictly, I will pin up on only in Zanzibar. I will talk more about Zanzibar and sustainable fisheries. And from Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which is stated which is also known as life below water, and that is derived from Sustainable Development Goal. The aim is to use and conserve to enhance sustainability of marine resources. Okay, in Zanzibar, we are doing two kind of fisheries functions. It is artisanal fisheries and deep fisheries. Most of our people here in Zanzibar, they are small-scale fishermen. They are doing artisanal fisheries, and there is few who are doing deep sea fisheries. And the sector in Zanzibar contributing 4.5%, and the employees directly, and most of them women. And the sector also 100,000 along with value chain. This is another group who are employed by the subsector of fisheries in Zanzibar. In Zanzibar, we have a total of coastal line estimated kilometer for fishing grounds. This is a very potential for fishery in Zanzibar. We have very large area for doing fishing. We have vessels until now, but most of them are awarded because they are doing additional fisheries. Most of them are, it's not advanced. 61% they are doing by using stays. 39 is propelled, outboard 0.1, and the inboard engines is just, we are continuing doing some survey. We don't have factual data yet. Okay. As you see, a large modern vessel from the foreigners, they use EEZ, but sometimes they are coming to our water, our our water, they are coming from within our country. It's border water borders from our water. They are crossing the border and they're coming within our country. Most of them. Okay, the catch per fisher per day is as average is 2.5. The average is 2.5. Okay. We also have 4 more living sites until now. The common targeted species, common captured fish here in Zanzibar, as you can see there. We have tuna-like species, reef and small pelagics, fish and molluscus. Up to 2023, the catch rised to this much ton. Reached that ton. Next slide, please. To ensure the sustainability of our fisheries, the government has taken some milestones and some enforcement to ensure we are getting along with that sustainability of in fisheries. There is a legal and institutional framework. This is the instrument just to rule and guide and enforce, prevail that sustainability we are talking about. And we have Department of Fisheries and Development, with the Department of Fisheries Development and Marine Resources, Department of Marine Conservation, Zanzibar Fisheries and Marine Resource Research Institute, ZARI, and we have Zanzibar Fisheries Companies of FICO, and then we have Deep Sea Fisheries. This is an institution we have. This institution just came to enforce the sustainability of our fisheries. And apart from that, we have a framework that we can use to that or to place the fisheries sustainability in our country. Blue economy policy, all of these documents you can get on. It is just on the online. You can get online if you are going online through our website, Ministry of Blue economy. Okay. Yes. Yes. No, the previous one. Yeah. Blue economy strategies, fisheries policy, fisheries strategies, fisheries master plan, and we have fisheries act. But this is just deleted, and we are made a new version of that. The government initiative is also has just come in to ensure that sustainability we are. Something like that, development of modern fishery lake site, provision of supply and marine protected area. But we still have constraints. We have some minor problems, some challenges. We are facing some challenge. Although we are doing sustainably, and this is some of our challenges, fisheries and of exploitation, climate change. Dr. Suya told us earlier, illegal fishing practices. We have habitat destruction, inefficient data management system, and also we have pollution. And this is due to as I said earlier, because we are practicing sustainable fisheries in Zanzibar, many international organizations have a better trust on us, and we managed to do so many projects from the regional and the international. And some of the projects we had like this, and there is another like this project are on the way coming. And this also enhance kind of sustainability fisheries in Zanzibar. We have done that project, and there is many others coming. We still need technology to remain and to stay intact in the sustainability practice of fisheries. We have still low technological innovation. So I know that I am talking to, and they may be our mouth to say and to patient to talk to one another sectors or actors to come in. We need certain technology, drones, acoustic, and this is some of the technology we need the most to this juncture, to this time. Next. Apart from the challenges we have been facing all along, we still have opportunity. We have a good track. We still have a good opportunity if someone wants to invest or if someone wants to come to join with us. We still have opportunity. And this is some of opportunity. We need now, we don't want any more doing the artisanal fisheries. We need our people to get along in socio-economic. We want to improve their livelihood. Everyone should get a gain from the resources we have. So we need a higher and deep sea fishery projects rather than artisanal fisheries. We need some processing facility because we are, as I told, up to 2023, we have 800,000 tons. And it is gradually increasing in productions. So we might have a large amount of protein, but it is not in a good way of processing it. Finally, they are lost. We have a high percent of post-harvest loss and some other issues. So we need something to process. I think this is the end. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. You can tell from the two presentations that they are marrying in a way, because you pick from what Dr. Musuya was talking about, the challenges, and what you come with. Any question? Any question for? Okay, so we'll allow you to sit down. We are going to have another round of questions when all the presentations are done. Okay. Okay.
Does the Blue Economy Ministry in Zanzibar work on any energy-related oceans, energy-related projects like wave or offshore winds? It's just a curiosity.
Please, you can come again.
Projects in Zanzibar, like tidal wave power or offshore winds. We use the ocean resources for energy production.
From what I know, until now, we don't have that kind of issues. But the Bureau related to the energy, they have already planned to to give a call for the investors to come in just to have this kind of energy generated from that area.
Okay, thanks, Sam. So we're going to the next presentation, which is a presentation that is also related to something that we did yesterday. And it is about the recycling of plastics. There's a project called the flip-flopping. I don't know where is the project based? Here in Zanzibar or in Lamu, Kenya only? Okay, yeah. So as you approach, the project was, I happened to know this project a bit because they made a boat that sailed in the East African coast.
Yeah, so our maiden sail was actually from Lamu to Zanzibar. So we sailed this boat made from recycled plastic on the ocean.
Okay, sorry for harassing you. Just get here to the podium. And maybe you can start by telling us about the coach. Introduce yourself and tell us basically how that is working.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sana. So could I just ask by a quick show of hands, who here has heard of the flip-flopping project? Yeah, okay, good to know. So this is basically what the flip-flopping project is. And as you can see from the picture, it's a boat covered in 30,000 flip-flops. But what started, can we go to the next slide? I'm gonna start with our story and about how we actually have managed to achieve what we have through a people-powered dream. So when people come together, recognize a problem, and are passionate about solving it, we really can do everything. So before we began the boat build, this is what our idea was, and this is all we had. And this is the product that we sold to the people who invested in our project, and this is the crazy idea that we told them, that we want to build a boat made out of plastic waste. So our project was founded by 3 partners who were traditionally in the tourism industry, and one partner, Ben, who ran a company in the UK, and he was selling holidays to beaches in Kenya and East Africa. And one morning he was having a swim and said, I cannot continue selling holidays to beaches that are just inundated with plastic. And as a person, I have to do something about it. So he had this crazy idea about what if we turned this plastic into a boat and use it to sail to communities and tell them about why plastic is so harmful. So just quickly, as a statistic, did you guys know that 1 in every 5 fish in Lake Victoria has ingested microplastics in their guts? And these are fish that we eat every day. And the people living by the shore, the people fishing these fish, don't even know. And this research also is from 2013. So more than 10 years on, the use of plastic has increased so much, the issue is definitely worse. So this is what we started with, a dream of building a boat from plastic and reaching communities to tell them about why we need to put an end to single-use plastic. Could we go to the next slide? And so this is the boat that we built. You can see all of this. We covered the boat in 30,000 flip-flops that we collected on the coast. And we built, you can see all of that. So none of this is wood, it's all plastic. And we've sailed over 2,500 kilometers. The first maiden sail in 2019 was from Lamu to Zanzibar. And then we've gone around Lake Victoria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, bringing on board communities, businesses, and policymakers, because we don't believe that recycling is the solution, right? We recycle because we have to treat plastic as a resource, but if we actually want to solve the problem, then we need to turn the plastic tap off. So quickly go to the next slide, please. So this is essentially what we do, what we did on expeditions. Slide. We bring on board, to the previous slide, we bring on board policymakers, and you can see there that is President Kenyatta on our boat. And next slide, please. And so what is actually the issue? Did you know that 50% of all plastics produced are actually designed for single use? That means that once you use that product, that's it. You're not going to use it again, but it's going to sit on our planet for the rest of time. Like the first ever piece of plastic produced still sits on the planet. And so you can see, this is a picture of the mangroves in Lamu. these are really small islands that actually don't even have proper waste management systems and networks for their own communities, let alone the thousands of tons that are washing up on our beaches and in our mangroves. So a lot of this plastic, when we did a study, we traced some of it back to places as far as Indonesia and China. So this problem really goes beyond the communities, and this is now remote island communities who are having to bear the burden of a global plastic crisis. Up to 16,000 chemicals in the production of plastics have been linked to health concerns. And yeah, both of these pictures are from our very small island, which is home to a population of less than 100,000 people. Could we go to the next slide, please? And so, from building a boat, this is what we've developed and turned into. Through the support of many partners, including SMEP and UNCTAD, we started Lamu's first ever material recovery and recycling facility, which employs people on the island and processes about 12 to 15,000 kilograms of plastic a month. So how we run this operation is we buy plastics from the local community. We train them on how to identify, segregate, and sort plastics. We buy plastics, we collect them, we sort them, wash them, shred them, and then turn them into products like this. I'm just going to pass it on so you guys can see what I'm talking. But this is one of our products that's made entirely from plastic waste. And not only are products recycled, but they're also inspired by our Swahili heritage, which you'll see on this chest. So just quickly, like a few figures, up to date, we've recovered 320 tons of plastic. So that's 320,000 kilos of plastics have been collected, and that's plastic that's directly being redirected from our marine ecosystem. So if we didn't collect these plastics, they would have likely leaked into the environment. A lot of it is also recovered from the environment. And we also conducted a research to understand what is the most dominant type of litter in our dump sites. And during our baseline study, in all dump sites, plastic was the most dominant type of litter. But 3 years after our intervention, we've recognized a 22% decrease in the amount of recyclable plastics that are ending up in landfills. So what this means is that our intervention is actually working. Communities are actually bringing their plastics to us, and plastics are no longer just being dumped at the dump site. We've avoided over 300 tons of carbon dioxide because, as we know, a lot of this plastic or a lot of this waste is also burnt in general. We've distributed over $60,000 to our network of community collectors. We've trained, so now we even have a heritage boat building training center and an educational center because these are new skills. And now that we're ushering in the next generation of circular economy innovators, that they need to be trained. So we have a training center that has received over 80 students. We even welcome you guys, Karibuni Sana, but even government delegations, just so that they can learn how we did it, because what our purpose is to build a blueprint for shoreline communities so they can see how we did it, and communities like in Zanzibar who face similar challenges can learn from us and implement the same in their communities. Beyond that, I know as journalists especially, you know all of the health risks and the serious livelihood issues that waste pickers face. And so now we're also working to improve the livelihoods of these waste pickers and have trained, and last year had our first accelerator program for 10 waste collectors, where we're working with them to just strengthen their skills so that they could earn higher incomes from plastic recycling. Could we go to the next? So just as an example, these are some of the products we create. Next slide, please. And so we started with the first boat, which I've showed you guys, and now this is our current boat that's being researched and developed. You can see it's a catamaran style boat, and it has these wings on the side that carries barrels of plastic. And the job of this new boat is it's basically a cargo barge that's going to collect over 30 tons of plastic waste from remote island communities and bring it back into our recovery facility for recycling. Also, for example, just an example of how we work with communities in CU Village, which if some of you are from Kenya, you know, it's in Pate Island. 100% of the community, of the households in that village have signed up to our household waste management program. So besides just buying and collecting plastics from the community, we're also thinking about a systemic approach and how can we bring segregation, proper collection, proper disposal of all types of waste at the household level. Yeah, asante. So this actually, so now our research also showed that 70% of this community were previously burning or dumping their waste directly in the ocean because they had no other alternative. So now this is the very same community who 100% have enrolled in our program. Next. So I want to talk to you guys quickly about our regional policy movement. So the flip-floppy, we have 3 key pillars, which is educate, innovate, and influence. So educate, you can see through our expeditions, through our training center, we educate communities on the importance of tackling plastic pollution, of how to end plastic waste, of how to innovate. And then also we innovate products and use that as a tool to push for a policy change, because when policymakers see that, okay, there's another use for this, policies are likely to become more friendly. But ultimately, what we believe in is an end to single-use plastic. And the only way we can end unnecessary single-use plastic is by harmonizing regional legislation. So the East African community is home to 8 countries, and all 8 of those countries have in place single-use plastic bans, right? So all of those countries have either a water bottle cap, like, you know, in Zanzibar and Tanzania, we have a ban on the plastic that's around a water bottle cap. In some countries, it's against single-use plastic bags. But what we're calling for, and I know you guys listened to Carlotta yesterday from ALN. So we've partnered with ALN, which is Africa's leading alliance of top law firms, and we've drafted a single-use plastic bill that calls for an end to the manufacturing and distribution of certain unnecessary single-use plastics within the East African community. So for example, balloons, earbuds, wrappers, cutlery, and things that can be replaced and things that are essentially unnecessary. And so over the past few years, we've gained a lot of traction in this movement. We've gained the endorsement of more than 40 East African government officials. So that includes members of national parliament, members of the East African Legislative Assembly, and we've had 16,000 citizens back our petition calling for an end to single-use plastic. So as you guys know, things like the UN Ocean Conference and all of these global platforms are a good opportunity to not only push for a global plastics treaty, but as we know, because that's taking so long and because getting all global governments to agree is certainly a challenge, what we can do is start by a regional policy movement. And this is what I would really love to make clear to you guys as we're looking for partnerships. We're really looking to amplify our voice and amplify our movement. And the first step in doing this is actually educating communities on the dangers of plastics, but also showing them what alternatives they are and what movements they can support if they also believe in this. So with this, I am at the end of my presentation. Asante sana for having me. You can take my email there, and I will ask Julian if you guys have a WhatsApp group to share our website. We have like reports, we have the draft bill, and a lot of useful information. And yeah, we're always happy to chat. So karibu sana to write me an email, and we hope that you lend your voice to our movement. Asante sana.
We will not sit down because I know you have a few questions. Huh?
All right.
Yeah. So you can put it there.
I can move it, it's fine.
Oh, okay. Aya, who wants to shoot the first question? Question for our presenter?
Just a quick connection with the question that was asked by one of the journalists yesterday on the connections between the flip-floppy project and the community waste management system. like how flip-floppy helped to develop waste management. Which, I don't know, is exactly asked it, where was it you? I think who asked the question about the, anyways, if you could develop a bit on how the activities of the project, not only making posts, but working backwards to improve the organization and conditions of the speakers, all the way to processing the materials, that would be a quite interesting thing I think, for us to look into.
Sure. Thanks for that question, Enrique. And yeah, a systemic approach is crucial to it, like it's key to everything we do. Just quickly, I think that the statistic is something like almost 80% of waste in Africa is mismanaged. And despite only producing up to 5% of plastics, we contribute over 24% to greenhouse gas emissions from mismanaged waste. So there is a huge waste management issue. And so, for example, what we're doing, we've set up 3, if not more, waste transit stations in remote island communities that previously had no waste management at all. So on a systemic level, we're not only working with communities, but also with local governments. At the moment, we're working on developing a waste consortium for Lamu, because as we know, there's been a new recycling facility on our island, but there was absolutely no connection. And this is another thing, is when you're innovating or when you're moving into these new spaces, building synergies and connections is not so easy as, you know, industries that have already been established for a long time. So what we're trying to do at the moment is build a cohesive network of all people working within waste management. So from the waste pickers, like I said, we had an accelerator program for these waste pickers. So an example of what we're doing with the waste pickers is we're providing training and also microfinance for them to set up kiosks where people can come in and trade their plastics for goods. So this not only, this actually, the point of this is to help ordinary citizens realize the importance of collective responsibility, because if you're just dumping your waste and someone is going to pick it up, you know, that's not sustainable. But if you're actually able to go to a shop, trade your waste for something, you see more value in it immediately, and you start to understand things, you start to question, okay, like, I'm not dumping this, I'm giving it to someone, where is it going? What is actually being created with this? So that's one of our aims. We've also contributed to several national strategies in Kenya and been used as a case study. There was the National Marine or something. You'll find it on our website. But yeah, we've contributed in that sense. Also recently we had a delegation from West Pokot County who came to learn about how we're doing it. So you guys know that in recent years, Kenya passed a waste management, a new waste management law, which essentially enforces, or rather like calls for more like segregation, all this at the county level. So we're working to set that up for Lamu with different stakeholders so that they can use that as a case study for other communities as well. Yeah, and then also like our policy movement is also a regional movement, which also directly, like we work with NEMA or NEMC over here, and share ideas on how we can like harmonize our waste management efforts systemically around the region. Thank you.
This is about a waste picking or waste collecting both that we have built. Can we expand on that? When was it started and how many times?
Yeah. Okay, with that particular boat, so it wasn't one of the last slides, but it's currently in the R&D stage. So about 1 month ago, we had a float test. So that means we took it into the water for the first time to test, is the design actually working? And it is working. I anticipate in the next few months, or maybe around a year, we will be able to actually use this boat to collect. But in general, so far, we've collected 320 tons of plastic waste. So we started off by doing it, communities would bring it into our workshop and would pay for it every Saturday. But now, thanks to the support of the SMEP program, we have a waste collection truck. So it goes around Lamu and it collects waste from the communities, also so that they don't have to bring it all the way, you know, to our workshop. Around 30 tons, I would say on a monthly basis, but I could be wrong, so I'm not entirely sure, but I'm more than happy, like, to answer that, to, consult the team and then answer that question for you more accurately.
I actually have a few questions for you, because you said that it's not in your interest to collect plastics or trash. It's only because it's there. So from when you started this initiative, has the level of trash management or plastic management in Lamu and around that part of it, and could you say it's better because your interest is to make the place safe, marine life and all that? And again, what is the durability of the plastic boat as compared to the wooden boats?
Yeah. We have statistics on your last question. I couldn't give you an answer now, but what I can tell you is it's certainly more durable than wooden boats for several reasons, but because plastic is designed to last forever, right? Which is why we're questioning, like, if this is such an incredible material that is so strong and that can be used for everything, why are we using it for single use? Like, let's save it for the bigger things like boats and not cut down trees. But yeah, I mean, essentially, so even in Lamu, one issue was when you're building dhows, you need very custom tree shapes and stuff like that. And Lamu, unfortunately, no longer has any of those trees. So our wood is actually being sourced from as far as Congo. To answer your question, the other question about are we seeing it improve? We're certain, yes, definitely. So we've seen a 22% reduction in plastics ending up at the landfill in 3 years alone. We've seen communities, like 100% of this village now enroll in our program. And I think most importantly, from the education part of it, people are understanding for the first time that this is actually a hazardous material. Like, it's made out of chemicals that have been linked to diseases. So I think for us, like, even engaging with young students and teaching them, that's one of the biggest impact part for me, although it's difficult to like quantify in numbers. Also, I wanted to say, yeah, in terms of influence, so from our first expedition, we sailed from Lamu to Zanzibar. A few weeks after our expedition, and during our expedition, we called a lot of policymakers on board, like you saw in the picture. And a few weeks after that expedition, the Zanzibari government actually placed its first ever single-use plastic ban on things like straws. So yeah, I mean, even on a policy level, we have seen that this colorful boat is really a powerful advocacy tool and does make a difference. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. And are you able to use for the boat making material? Do you use all types of plastics, or there is a certain plastic that you always recommend?
That's a really good question. Thank you. So we don't use all type of plastics. This is made out of HDPE plastic, so which is typically your jerry cans, where like they have the 5-liter jerry cans and stuff like that. Before we had collected about more than 200 tons of magunia. You guys know magunia, like the woven plastic sacks. And we didn't know what to do with them because we didn't have the expertise to recycle them, but we can't tell the community like, okay, just go and put it back in the environment. So we collected it, and then we had partnerships with universities like the Delft University of Technology, who came in, and after 2 years of R&D, research and development, we now can make plastic sheets and also lumber from PP plastic, which is magunia. So it's a process. We're learning how to integrate more plastic into our recycling. But another example is PET, which is plastic bottles, single-use plastic bottles. We can't recycle those, but what we do is we collect them from the community, we bale them, so that means that we compress them, and then we sell them to other recyclers. So at least it's getting off the island and disposed of properly.
Awesome. Let's appreciate Maria for her presentation. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so very much for that. And I hope you see what plastic can do. I'm going to bring in Enrique here so that he can introduce us to one of our guests. Enrique is going to tell us who is our guest and also tell us what he's going to talk to us about.
UNCTAD, together with the Fleet Lobby Project and a SMEP program, has been working for a couple of years now in East Africa on pollution issues, and especially on plastics. And as part of the work of the SMEP program, which has 23 projects in the field, one of them is the Fleet Lobby Project. We also help policy advocacy. And in East Africa, as I mentioned yesterday in my presentation, there is one process to harmonize the laws of the 7 EAC countries against plastic pollution into a single law. So far, every country has its own rules or sets of laws. Most of the countries already have taken some action against single-use plastics, but not at the regional level. So not with the harmonized laws at the regional level. And I'm very honored to have here one member of the East Africa Legislative Assembly from Tanzania, from Zanzibar, Honorable Ali Machano, who can perhaps say a few words on the work of the East Africa Legislative Assembly, a very important body to harmonize legislative approach across the region, especially in issues of, for example, plastic pollution, which require collective action. Ali Machano joined us recently in Nairobi for a conference, if I'm not wrong, with Takataka in Mali, right? The conference on waste as well, where this issue of policy harmonization, the various angles of adding value to waste was discussed. And we also worked with other parliamentarians at that occasion. And previously, 2023, when we brought a delegation of 15 parliamentarians from the East Africa Legislative Assembly to Nairobi to discuss exactly that. Fleet Lobby was always with us in this journey and actually led the effort to sensitize the regional authorities on this. Honorable Machano, if you could say a few words just to give us a taste of your work at the ALA.
Habari za asubuhi. So much organizer of this program, and I respectively recognize all participants in this program, from the organizer respectively and others. My good name is Machano, Ali Machano. I'm a member from United Republic of Tanzania, Special Zanzibar. And because Mr. Herring wants to tell me, you want me to talk to you, ABC, about what we are doing in line with the protection, conservation, environment, and whatever. And let me first take you ABC, EAC, and EALA. EAC, the regional bloc, means East African Community, which has been established by the treaty, called the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community. And it has been started by 3 countries, partner states, Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. We are now 8 countries, 8 partner states. The new one is Somali. Currently, the active members is Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and Democratic Republic of Congo, which is 7 countries. And just recently, Somali has joined. So now we are making 8 partner states in EAC. In EAC, we have is it a rank or bodies or meetings or whatever, but we have summits, we have whereby the meeting which composes of head of states, and we have a council of ministers, we have which composes of Minister of Foreign Affairs and the EAC and related issues in East African Community, and we have Parliament where I'm working with, we have other bodies. So in Parliament, I mean in EALA, EALA means East Africa Legislative Assembly, the Parliament of the East African Community. So we are doing the same work doing with other parliaments in partner states, like what we are doing in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda Parliament is what we are doing. But the geographical jurisdiction is different. We are dealing with the, we collect all partner states. And what we are doing is in line with the treaty for the establishment. Not each and everything is not to be considered in EALA, but only those issues which has been stipulated according to the treaty for the establishment of the EAC. So in EAC, we have permanent standing committees like other partner states, parliaments. And myself, I belong to the committee called the Agriculture, Tourism, and the Natural Resources is where those issues of environment, fisheries, agriculture is relating to. I wanted to tell you about EALA and the EAC because I want you to know the reason why I'm here, not because I'm a member of parliament, but because I'm a member which belong to the committee relating to the issue of environment and other things relating to that. For the case when it comes to issue of environment, EALA has performed the best role in the time in line with conservation and the protection of environment. And you as Africans or as human beings, we know that we are living in our environment. So we are using environment whereby we are producing dust, wastes, and waste is harmful for the human life. So we're supposed to have a proper use of those waste materials for the betterment of our life and not to affect our daily life. So I think yesterday it has been presented here the issue relating to single-use plastic. We have EAC bill, draft bill now, and the effort made by EAC. And this is because of how we are dealing with the stakeholders. We have stakeholders who have started with this bill relating to protection and conservation of plastic materials. So fortunately, our committee get opportunity to meet with those stakeholders. They presented to us the draft bill, and now currently the bill is within the hand of the parliament. This is how we are working with the stakeholders. The stakeholders drafted the draft bills, and because of the good communication with the committee of the parliament, so now the issue has been presented to the parliament, and we are working with it. I tried to make cross-check with the staff of the EALA. Now the bill is within the hand of the East African draftman. So it is in a good position. And as some of us will got opportunities to discuss in depth in line with that bill. So we are waiting for it. When it comes to the parliament, we are going to convince the other members to pass that bill so that it's going to be the law to be used in East African community for the betterment of proper conservation and the protection of the environment, especially the use of plastic. What can I say to you? The best thing can I say to you is in our communities, we have different peoples. On our side, we are politicians. There are artists. There are journalists, like where we are here. There are academicians, entertainers. Everyone have to use his own position to make sure we sensitizing, we educating, we create awareness to the community on what is needed and what is not needed. That is the only thing that can I say to you. I want to repeat it because of emphasizing. We are here discussing about the issue of environment, the issue of environment relating to the best life of our human being. So what can we do? Those training, workshop, seminars, and whatever, we need to make sure we are living in a safe life. How can we manage to do so? Everyone's supposed to use what you have, what belongs to you, so that to make sure the community remains safe. This community is supposed to be clear. We're supposed to live without any kind of disturbance. So My advice to you, let us use our expertise, journalists and others, to make sure we are facing the community, we are facing society, telling them about the harmful of using plastic material, the harmful of environment, the harmful of that environment, so that we are going to avoid that back to practice. If you recall what has been presented here today, you can see how human being can affect the efforts of the others. So we need to stop those bad behavior to make sure we are living in a good way, in a good life. We are respecting what is doing by others. We are respecting what can affect the life of others. That is the only thing that can help us to achieve what we are doing today. The only thing is we are training here. We build that capacity, and on so doing, by the end of this program, we increase our knowledge on how we're supposed to live in our environment to make sure we respect what is doing to others. And especially a good example, Dr. Msuya has said here, others they cultivate seaweed. Other people they're going to affect it. They cutting roads, destroying the product and whatever. But whenever we respect what is doing by others, what is said by others, will help us to live in the best way. That is the best thing that can talk to you. And hizi politicians, kuna maneno mengi, kwa hiyo mimi nimeamua just decide to minimize my votes to make sure I just tell you that only one thing that can help you today and tomorrow to make sure we are serving our life, we are saving the life of the others, we are saving our environment, we are conserving our environment, we are protecting our environment, so that we are going to live in the best life. I want to apologize for my next voice, because as per the invitation extended upon me, and I really appreciate. Thank you so much for the invitation extended upon me. It is a respect to me, it is a pleasure, and I wanted to be with you from the starting day to the end, but because of what is going on here, we are busy here and there, and stopping me starting being with you from the day one. But what is going on? Please make a proper communication with the office. We are here to support what is going on. What you are doing is stakeholders, is expertise, is East Africans. So don't stop, don't stay with what you have. Try to make sure you make a proper communication with the airline, with our office, to make sure what you have is within the line of the community. Thank you so much. I want to deliver this podium to the coordinator so that we continue what we do. As confidence whether I will be with you from now to the end, but I prefer to be with you. I will remain here, and if I go something heavy to me, I will go out there and come back. I expect to be with you. Niwe radhi, nataka niwe na nyinyi, lakini kuna mambo yako nje ya uwezo wangu. Asante sana.
Before you step out of the board, I hope you still have some time. I want to ask you a question or two, because you see, and you have said it's right that you are a politician, but you are the people who are supposed to facilitate the common humanity so that the government can can offer the necessary support. So I just want to know, looking at the East African community, do you feel that there is good political goodwill, from the governments of the community? And is that goodwill at the same level? Because you see, we have a very vibrant goodwill here in Tanzania. or in Zanzibar. Is that the same in Somalia, in South Sudan, in all the other East African countries? Do you feel that the governments of the East African countries have the political goodwill to, make sure that at least circular and blue economy are very, very well catered for? And that basically means even the financial allocations. Is there enough money, or is there an effort to give enough money to the sector so that it can flourish to what it's needed?
Thank you so much. Unataka kuchokoza mambo ya jumuiya, lakini asante. Thank you so much for the brilliant questions. Actually, you have a challenge as a community, because as I said before, there are some issues which has been stipulated in the treaty for the establishment of the community. That community partner state has to live in line with these issues. But first thing is that there is priorities in the partner state, each partner state. And the issue of budget allocation. First, I want to there is the answer and explanation. The answer of your question is there's a challenge in budget allocation in terms of government support, line of the projects and whatever in relating to like what we give a good example of supporting what is going on in line of environment and whatever. And I remember the day we were there in Nairobi, we had a meeting with the stakeholders. They came to present what is they're doing in their countries. The same challenges we came to observe, that the budget allocation for the partner state dealing with those issues. Because you have mentioned one issue, but as a region, we have different issues. Example, we have this issue of environment. We have each partner state has got their organs and bodies relating to the environment protection. But when it comes to budget allocation to those organs, it's a challenge. Even the partner states themselves, they say that this is among the big challenge we are facing with, that we don't have good budgets which can affect our work. So the simple answer of your question is we have a challenge in terms of government review in financial support, but we are supporting. And then each partner state support their countries, but as a region, we mobilize and we emphasize them. Please increase the budget in this area so that these issues are going to be affected. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's appreciate one of the other. Okay, so that's it. Before we still have some time. So, Ali, you want to ask something? Okay. Okay, there are some more questions for you. I'm sorry I didn't give everyone a chance to do that.
I think that's just a few things coming on clarification of trade areas and integration, especially employment integration and so on. Do you think becoming on Africa frequent trade areas and integration, government protection?
So much. And of course, what you have said, even now we have challenge when it comes to issue of trade in the community. And unfortunately, in the parliament, there is a committee which dealing the issue of trade. But myself, I'm not in that committee. And the committee is in agriculture and regional affairs, conflict resolution. So the question, let me take it, and maybe Mr. Eric, I can share with you the proper and the good answer of what has been asked. Because as a politician, I can say 1, 2, 3 is enough. But the question has been asked, and the good answer is required. So please give me time for that. I take the question, my brother, and I will communicate. If I will not be, I will communicate to Mr. Eric. Let him give the proper and effective answer. Thank you so much.
we happen to have a program working, which is called Greening the ACFTA, so the African Continental Free Trade Agreements, which is working, my colleague Malik Kane, colleagues from Madagascar know, he is working in the West Africa especially I think the focus initially is to derive additional value from agriculture. Like I mentioned, I think yesterday in my presentation, non-plastic substitutes. So there are materials that can, for example, rice husks, coffee, steels, or sugarcane bagasse that you can transform into plastics replacements, for example. And those materials are not being transformed at the moment because agriculture uses the core product, as it uses the corn, it doesn't use the peel, and then you miss that opportunity. So there are efforts being done to green the production systems of the core areas like agriculture across Africa. And of course, also working on standards for those products to be able to trade in the African region. The EAC, of course, there's always this presumption that in the EAC, trade will be already liberalized, there will be less border frictions when you transact between the countries, but this is being expanded into a larger scale. There are many economic communities in Africa. We did a study once, we kind of tried to do Venn diagrams and overlap which countries are members of what. It became like a huge set of balloons, many countries members of different communities. And the whole goal of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is to harmonize it and expand the benefits of that free trade to all. There are many things that will happen this year. As you know, the United States is changing its tariff instance. Many African countries have North America as an important trade partner, and the Africa Opportunity and Growth Act that gives African products free access to the United States market will expire in September. So there will be questions on whether these will be renewed, or whether the African countries will also have to reciprocate free market access to U.S. products. Everything is to be seen. A lot of action will happen in the second semester. And this will, of course, affect all the countries vis-a-vis North America, all the East African community vis-a-vis North America, and the Africa as a regional bloc through the ACFTA trade. So there is a lot of let's say, news potential for you guys to work on this aspect of trade relations of Africa in the world in this year. Thank you.
I think Mary had a question for
Thanks for your great presentation. I want to ask, so we know East Africa shares a lot of natural resources like Lake Victoria, Serengeti, Mara. Any environmental policies or any other policies that have been harmonized in recent years that us as the plastic movement can learn from, like how you guys did it, or any other laws that are harmonized and designed to protect our shared ecosystems that we could learn from? Thank you.
Actually, it's true that there are some resources that we are sharing, and there are some institutions within the EAC, which deal with those resources. A good example, we have East like Victoria Fisheries Organization. This is the organization which is dealing with supervision and controlling what is going on in Victoria. So the issue of environment is very, very, very covered. That institution, it has been established according to the law. And I'm less confident if there is that law, but there is some legal framework on how we're supposed to protect and conserve the environment. Because one among the best reason, the prominent reason of establishing EAC is the proper uses of our environmental resources. Thank you so much.
All right, so if any of you have questions for our last three presenters, we encourage you to walk to them and request them. I want to come back to Dr. Musuya because there's something that I wanted to ask you. I don't know whether you addressed it when I was not really keen. Now, because we are seeing a lot of interest coming into the seaweed business, when it comes to local and international markets, how do you compare seaweed and seaweed products? How do you compare local and international markets? I know you said that there is a, that problem of like value addition and exports and all that. But when you compare, because I saw you tell us about 2 types of seaweed and how much it costs per kg of each. So when you compare about what is happening here, and I know Mirko is also dealing with seaweed, so he should be able to tell us how the seaweed products are also, trading on the other side of the world. But comparing what is happening, if you have, some data on that, comparing how it costs of both the raw seaweed and seaweed products, and what it could make when it goes to the international market. Now that we are seeing a lot of traction on the issues around seaweed, it's becoming a strong resource from our water bodies, our oceans, and all that. So is it good? Is it comparable from what it can trade here in Africa and what we can make for the export market? And how is that?
Thank you for your question. On the seaweed, raw dry seaweed. In our case, as I said, we depend on the world market. And our 2 species, actually the world market for the spinosum is already saturated. That's why even the marketing of our seaweed abroad has to be by quotas and so on and so forth. But if we are able to produce cotonie, then we will have a profit market. Now for the exporting, what we know is, we don't get really data in between, but we know that in the world market, like a ton of spinosum would be around $450 per ton, like that. And not also of the Palestinian. And the spinosum can go to $600 per ton. So for the dry seaweed, there's a higher market, higher prices abroad compared to what we have here. For the seaweed products, there's a lot of variation depending on the seaweed products. But what I can say is, actually, the products abroad, they always have a higher price than what we have here. So for now, we are developing the prices within the country. We need to go to Africa and then into the world. So whatever step we go, the prices will go up. But products in the world market, they are higher than what we have here. Maybe someone can add about, especially about the seaweed products.
Yeah. Mirko, I want to harass you because at least you have the advantage of working with the UNCTAD, which is the trade body of the world. So why would it be that we have products that seaweed products that could fetch better money when it goes to other countries, but not when it's here now, when it's taken from this the same of looking down upon what is coming from this side of the world? Well, how is the market generally? How do you see that? Why is it that seaweed from Africa or seaweed products from here fetch the same or be competitive as products from the seaweed market? Draw a comparison.
A lot of the attraction potential.
Yeah.
How to in the world is not enough.
I want you to draw a comparison. If let's say tuna, seaweed tuna, like rather not tuna, the Japanese is called. Yeah. Why could it be the same as we take it to the market? Compare what is coming from here in Tanzania in the coast of Tanzania and what is coming from the other side of the world. Is the product as competitive as anywhere else in the world? Is the African product as competitive, either on a refined or value added? Is it as competitive as seaweed and seaweed products of the other side of the world?
Honestly, I could not say very precisely. I could not answer this
The thing I can say is that the seaweed that are used right now in Africa and that are just harvested here in Tanzania are mostly used like by far, and flour, tell me if I'm wrong, we sold in the industry. We don't use it like we could use the Asian seaweed that we use right now just for human consumption. Here, the vast majority of the seaweed produced in Tanzania, even more broadly in Africa, is directed to the industry to make especially textures, like textures, in English, what is it? Textures, to make texture, like carrageenan, yes. For example, why your toothpaste has this texture is thanks to algae that's inside, you know. And something that could be done, but that is still up to more work, is to find some new applications and new ways on how to use different parts of the algae we are harvesting to just valorize it more, just with the one we already harvest, just not use only the algae property, but also some new properties so that it can find and reach the market.
Complementing what Mirko well says, it's about value addition, right? If you have something that is produced as a commodity, like bulk seaweed to try to make jellyfish, like gel type of material, agar-agar, those are commodities. They are traded in bulk, and they have some value added, but they do not have a lot of value added per kilogram. Just think about fish. Fresh fish costs, I don't know, $3-4 a kilo less, depending on the fish. But canned fish costs much more. So the more value addition you do, if you do plastics from seaweeds, like using advanced fermentation technologies, or if you do nonori leaves for sushi, the price will gradually, increasingly increase, and sometimes the jump is very high. If you trade cotton, you get a price per kilogram. If you trade cotton shirts, you get a much higher price per kilogram. So I think the opportunities here is to try to store in Zanzibar, in Tanzania, in East Africa, more value addition manufacturing capacity to transform seaweed, raw bulk commodity, into seaweed products. I think, Malika, you were an entrepreneur of seaweed. Maybe you want to comment on that too.
For sure. So I think also it's not about looking down at things like from, normally like how we do, but also seaweed is not indigenous to or this certain type of seaweed that's farmed is not indigenous to Tanzania. So it's something that we were farming industrially for a demand that we didn't even know about. I mean, if you ask a farmer, do you know where this is going? Like, do you know what it's used for? They don't know. Do you know that it has all these minerals? They don't know because it was just a seed brought commercially. And I also think, so for example, like in Jamaica or places like that, seaweed has been a part, or in Ireland, it's been a part of their diets for centuries. So they have a lot of local use. I think that's one of the challenges with local use. But yeah, I think in the past 7-10 years, there's actually been a huge, especially a health trend, or at least that's one of the places where I jumped on as a seaweed entrepreneur. So I think now it's just it's not a new material because it's been there since 1980s in Tanzania particularly, but I think like Enrique Mirko said, we're now starting to find new applications because we're realizing we need an alternative to plastic, or we need an alternative to chemical biostimulants. So where can we find these minerals? And that's where you realize, okay, seaweed has these minerals. So yeah, I think we're at the beginning of a seaweed revolution too. Thank you.
My last question will be to Dr. Mufira again, because in your presentation, you said that the challenges that women are facing when they go into the water, their health problems and all that. Is there something like a gear that women can use when they are getting into the water so that as they do their work, they can be protected? Because, like for fishermen, maybe when they go into the deep waters, they are inside the boats. Sometimes they don't spend a lot of time inside the waters. So is there something like a gear that can be used when women are getting into the waters so that they can be protected, especially, the ocean of the water and all that? And is it possible to have the gear, or is it too expensive for the business? Okay, yours, yeah.
Are there cases of, you look on socioeconomic events, cases of women getting divorced, women involved in civil production getting divorced due to, health issues, and so are there such cases?
Thank you. I would say that for the women working in the shallow water areas, I wouldn't say there is a gear that can help, because you know how they are working all the time, holding seaweed, tying this stuff. If they put on something like a diving suit or something, I think it would be very difficult for them to work. So, things that can help is just something like maybe eyeglasses, sunglasses. But how many of them can put on sunglasses and work? Sometimes when they look like this, some of them find it difficult that they. So I think for the health issues of women when they are working the sea, I think the best way is just to have health centers or health services that can help them to go there if they feel that they are sick, or they have something on their skin, or that would help. But a gear that can help them when working in the sea, I think that would be a bit difficult. That's what I think. Now, divorces because of health issues. No, I have not heard of people getting divorced because of health issues. There were some conflicts when the seaweed farming started in 1989, 1990. Men didn't feel that it is good for their wives to go out there in the sea. That's a men's environment to go and work there. There were some frictions. Maybe there could have been one or two divorces, but with time, when the men realized, okay, so we can get some money for our kids to go to school, for hospital bills, for food at home, then they just supported their wives, and some of them would help them with the harvesting and cutting seed and so on. But on healthy issues, divorce because of health issues, this I have not heard, unless there's someone who have heard of this.
If you have any, just wanted to add.
Okay, yeah, now I know because it is the Muslim world, personally, all these years, I've not heard of a woman who was divorced because of her health issue, or a husband marrying another wife because of health issues. This I have not heard. What I've heard is that, okay, people can get things like fungus, they can get bruises because of the work they do. And this issue of women, when women get back home, they have all chores in the house and whatever. By the time it is around 10, 11, they are so tired that sometimes they just tell the husbands, please forgive me for today. Those things happen, but really divorces and so on, I don't have that kind of data.
Okay. We're coming to the end of okay.
My question goes to Dr. Flower. So I want to know to what extent seaweed farming is causing mangrove deforestation, because I heard that they are source of mangrove deforestation because of the trees that are holding the seaweed. They get those trees from the mangrove. But the second one, I don't know who will be able to answer this, or this will maybe raise a discussion for all of us. We know all the benefit of seaweeds, those immunity boosting and stuff like that. And we know, especially in Zanzibar, the research says that 40-something of the children are malnourished. So can't we use, or is there any initiative that have been done, maybe Dr. Tomsua will tell us, have been done to make sure that we are using this seaweed to heal ourselves first before selling them to the outside world?
Yeah, thank you for your question on the mangroves. You know, as I said, for those villages where they have mangrove forests, they were using a lot of these, they were cutting a lot of these mangroves to have the pegs, because that was the source of the pegs that was near their seaweed farms. But as I said, it reached a point that the government saw that there was a lot of destruction. That's why they put a ban on it. No one is allowed to cut mangroves anymore for the pegs. They have to go to the other coastal forests, but not mangroves. So it was, there was a really bad destruction. That's why the two governments decided to put a ban on cutting mangroves for pegs. Okay, the malnutrition issue, I'll just say a little bit and then others can come in. Yeah, we see that seaweed has a lot of iron, okay? They have a lot of iron, and this is something that is needed like in children for strengthening the bones, for when the bones are developing and so on. Recently, there have been some ideas or proposals or initial thinking of developing, adding something in the curriculum, school curriculum, so that the kids, I don't know, maybe in Zanzibar, if someone knows, maybe they are going to start soon, but to add on the curriculum, that is the children are taught the importance of seaweed, what seaweed can do to their bodies and so on. So this is something that we're already thinking about. And indeed, if we can use the seaweed, for example, in a school food, they eat porridge, for example, you put seaweed powder in the porridge, or whatever food they eat, still seaweed can be added, it will help a lot when it comes to the question of malnutrition among the children.
Anyone who wants to add anything on that? But Mohammed, I wanted to ask you one question. Because you talked about technology, like employing technology so that you can be able to fully utilize, especially through economy. That issues to deal with fishing and management, even management of fisheries. So do you have knowledge of something that has been proposed, a technology that has been proposed? Because even as the government invites, private players, private investors, is there a proposal or financing for technology that the government can show that this is working so that the private players can also follow that? Is there something in the works from the government side?
Okay, thank you. Until this moment, we don't have any kind of information on such technology. As I told you, we have just little kind of technology like using the GPS and the other technological issue that is not much advanced. Now, what we are calling on the board is advanced technology like the one I proposed there.
So there's not, apart from GPS, nothing. There was also, this is my last question for you. There was issue of a conflict because fishermen feel like they own the waters. They have been in the waters for the longest time. So sometimes when it comes to the issues of other people coming to reap some benefits from the water, fishermen feel as if people are interfering with their livelihood. So what is the conflict that is existing for now? And how do you solve that conflict so that the people who are doing seaweed, who are doing the mangroves, all of them can coexist and everyone has an income?
Well, that is an interesting question. There is conflict, yes, between the farmers, like seaweed farmers, and the sector of like tourism, hotel buildings, and some other touristic activities. But to this time, the government through through Economy and Fisheries, with collaboration with other sectors like Land Commission, Zanzibar for Land Commission, they are doing marine spatial planning. We call it MPS, Marine Spatial MST, Marine Spatial Planning for the demarcate the boundaries, so to provide boundaries to demarcate on the sea level, the boundary for the particular activity. Maybe this portion will be for the fishing, and portion for the seaweed farming, and this is for another touristic tourism activities. Now we are on the way developing marine spatial planning. Although we have already did, but it is not successfully, but now we are revising to make it work more preferable and effectively. Thank you.
And some countries have been having issues of diminishing fish resources, like the traditional fishing sites are going without fish, or the fish are migrating, or their use of fishing. How are you dealing with such cases so that the fishermen remain in business? Do you demarcate areas whereby you prevent fishing for some time? How do you deal with the issue of overfishing and lack of resources when fishermen go to the sea?
Yes, there is some farmer going to some fishermen going to the fish there for fishing, and they could get nothing from that time. That you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. And that is we are calling for the higher technology and high and the deep sea fishing instead of using the artisanal fishing, because that problem is coming due to the low technology. You see, the fishermen, they use only sails to go to for the fishing, and that is very limited. Sometimes, because there is artisanal fishing, most of the farmers, small scale fishermen, they are getting around the shallow water areas like in the coast and some areas there. So there is over exploitation, but our deep sea and higher level sea is still virgin, because there is a lot of fish. What we lack here for this time is the instrument gears and other tools go beyond there, beyond the artisanal level. So we should have that kind of technology, tools, and other to go further for fishing, rather than the artisanal fishing on the coastal area.
All right, thank you very much. Let's appreciate our speakers for the morning session. Let's appreciate them with an applause or a clap, please. Thank you so much for your time. And to our journalists, anyone who has any questions or anything you want to do with any of the speakers, you're welcome. They are available for you. I want to give a chance to the people who have walked outside to come back so that we can do our morning quiz. So Jennifer, kindly give everyone their quiz forms so that all of their so that we can do that. But as we do that, I want to ask anyone who has the courage to speak, tell us what are the 3 new things that you have seen since when you came to Zanzibar? Probably not from people in Zanzibar. 3 things that you have seen that you didn't know, or as in 3 new things that you have seen from your daily life that you have seen here in Zanzibar. For those people who are, especially from Madagascar and Kenya, need to start to 3 things that you have seen here in Zanzibar for the last, how many days have you been here? 4 days, So they should be talking something. 3 things, tell us 3 things. There must be something. 3 things that you have seen. 3 new things that you have seen that you had not seen. Oh, and especially as well. I know you came yesterday, actually, you were the one who's supposed to tell you. What are the 3 things that you have seen here so far that you didn't know that? Yeah?
Okay, it's the doors. I just thought that the doors were just random. And then someone explained that this is the Zanzibar door because you can see the chains linked to slavery. This is Indian, this is Arab, this is something I've seen. Another thing is the amount of well-fed cats in one area. The cats are not skinny. They don't look like they belong to anyone, but they're well-fed. That's 2 and 3. Tiny kids shouting and running about at night. It's past 8 and no one is tired. Don't they go to bed? These are 3 things I've seen so far.
I'm happy you have talked about the cats because they are not the best of my friends. Well, I almost said that, but one more person. 3 things that you have seen since you came to Zanzibar. You want to tell us about 3 things. 3 things. Oh, okay. Enrique, have you been here before? No. Oh, I know.
Many times to down in Arusha and then.
Okay.
So, 2 things I can quickly remember.